The news, good evening. The Covishield vaccination campaign continued today for people over 40. Until this afternoon, more than 300 individuals had already been injected with the first dose of the Covishield vaccine at different centres. This was at the International Conference Centre, at Beauvallon, and at the green and yellow roof buildings of the Seychelles Hospital. The ICCS Conference Centre was the busiest place this morning, where more people from the central region were being vaccinated. Inmates participating in the Seychelles Prison Services Rehabilitation Programme, Project Phoenix, have volunteered to contribute the sum of 17,000 rupees to the Seychelles COVID-19 Fund, joining other private persons and companies in the national effort against the COVID-19 pandemic. Inmates who volunteered to donate the fund are all attached to the Resettlement Day Release work camp and are engaged in work schemes with several private companies under prison supervision under Programme 2 of Project Phoenix. Vijay Construction Company has agreed to hand over documents about its assets to an appointed liquidator. Both Vijay Construction and the Eastern European Engineering Limited, EEEL, the developer of the Savoy Hotel, were in court this afternoon, and the case was heard by Chief Justice Ronnie Govindan. The agreement reached today follows a previous order made by the court on the 7th of December last year in relation to a request made by EEEL that Vijay Construction provides documents that prove whether or not it has assets to fulfill the court's order for it to pay EEEL 20 million euros as compensation. On Friday this week, both parties will agree on the liquidator to be appointed, and this will eventually determine whether the winding up of Vijay Construction will continue or not. The case stems from a dispute over construction delays and other contract breaches back in 2011 when Vijay was building a Savoy. Vijay lost its appeal last October against the ruling made the same year by the Supreme Court for it to pay the 20 million euros to EEEL.
This is the request for the disclosure of documents on one side, on one party. We are ready to disclose to all the other creditors, right? If we disclose only to them, this is an unfair position advantage of others. They have not come to court. Only because EEL is a judgment creditor, they come to court asking for the disclosure of the documents. So we see this is unfair. This is not equitable as well. So we say everybody will come, but everybody will not be physically able to come. They can come through the liquidator. Liquidator is inviting all the parties, come and, lodge your claims. Then we disclose everything to the liquidator. That's it. We are not denying to disclose. We are refusing to disclose to one party, which is Eastern European Engineering.
What is this suggestion I heard inside about Judge Karunakarn being
Originally, an application was made to appoint him as the liquidator. At that time, it was not necessary, so it was dismissed. But now, Eastern European Engineering suggested somebody else other than him.
New regulations will be introduced by the Seychelles Maritime Safety Authority to allow for better monitoring of activities within the Seychelles waters. This comes after the Cabinet of Ministers approved 4 regulations to be enforced by the authority under the Merchant Shipping Act. These regulations are the Seychelles Maritime Safety Licensing Regulation, Identification Regulation, Fees Regulation, and the Inshore Waters Regulation. Debate in the National Assembly on this year's appropriation bill has ended. The Minister for Finance, Nadir Hassan, is expected to present his closing speech tomorrow morning, after which the House will adjourn to resume sittings on Thursday.
One of the themes that have constantly been brought up since the debate started and came up repeatedly today was the Unemployment Relief Scheme, or URS, that the government says will be handled differently to prevent abuses. Some US MNAs again spoke forcefully against the government's decision. The U.S. proportionately elected MNA, Wallace Gosgrove, felt that the future seems rather bleak for many families. He said the social gains acquired over the years will simply be shattered. This, he said, also applies to the decision to put an end to the scheme FA4JR introduced at the beginning of the COVID pandemic last year to help businesses financially. To those criticisms, some LDS MNAs, including the member for Cascade, Philip Motsi, said the U.S. was simply indulging in populism. Mr. Motsi questioned where money would be found to continue such a reckless exercise when the previous government had left the state coffers totally empty. The statement was supported by the MNA for Bile, Nobe Loiseau, who added that the budget presented by the Minister for Finance was the best the government could provide, considering the mismanagement over the past years. Other issues that came up included fisheries. Some U.S. MNAs felt that the promises made by the Minister for Fisheries regarding the industry could never materialize, as they were simply populist measures.
And with this, we end this news summary. Thank you for watching and have a very pleasant evening.